ghastly terrorist attack on tourists in Kashmir's picturesque Baisaran Valley in the Pahalgam area that took 26 lives on April 22nd has dealt a body blow to India's continuing efforts to bring the state bordering Pakistan into the national mainstream. The killings by two or three gunmen, likely with Pakistani links, appeared to have been carried out to cause great many deaths and gave the impression that they were designed to predominantly target Hindus. They also brought under sharp focus a peculiar imbalance between the Jammu and Kashmir government of Chief Minister Omar Abdullah and the Indian government of Prime Minister Narendra Modi in the specific context of the obligations of law and order as well as security. Those functions are under the control of New Delhi, even while Chief Minister Abdullah has to deal with the political fallout of the killings as an elected leader of the state. To get a perspective from the ground, MCR spoke to the well known Srinagar based journalist and writer Zafar Chaudhry. Welcome to Mayanchar Report, Zafar. It's always a great pleasure to have you. I wish it was under better circumstances.
Yeah, sometimes we have to catch up in very unpleasant circumstances, but thank you very much for having me on the show.
I want to begin with where Omar Abdullah, as Chief Minister and as the head of the government, feature in this dynamic between Delhi and Srinagar, especially in the context of the Pahalgam attack.
So unfortunately, I think very strongly about Omar Abdullah. He's somebody in a very tight spot, in a very peculiar, very complex kind of situation. So while as he is an elected leader, he is the chief minister. He has got votes. He has got mandate. So he presides over the cabinet, but he is not in charge of the security in any manner. So he does not. The intelligence apparatus does not report to him. So he does not get to understand what is happening on the ground. So yeah, law and order, public order, security is not with him. But then political pressure, political accountability, people will not easily understand that how is it possible that a chief minister is not responsible, he is not accountable, particularly for an incident of security of the kind of scale that has happened yesterday in Kashmir.
Yeah, I'm not extremely well versed with the intricacies of the Indian Constitution, but is there any way where the central government can make an exception in a case like this and
Right.
involve him in intelligence and other briefings?
So it's a very peculiar case with Jammu and Kashmir because the way Constitution of India runs in a federal scheme of things for rest of the country, like you have the union government and the central intelligence agencies report to the home minister, and then there are governments in the state where the state police authorities and the intelligence apparatus, they report to the local chief minister. That does not happen in case of Jammu and Kashmir. That does not mean that the Indian constitution excludes Jammu and Kashmir, but the constitutional changes which happened in 2019 upon abrogation of Article 370. So Jammu and Kashmir is run under an apparatus that's called as the Reorganization Act of 2019. So the Reorganization Act reduces Jammu and Kashmir to a union territory that has a legislature, but then it defines that public order, security shall be a domain of the Lieutenant Governor who reports to the Home Minister of India. So Chief Minister is excluded from that.
You mentioned accountability. In Abdullah's case, it is accountability without the power to do
That's
anything
right.
about
That's
it.
right. So in
And
terms of public perception, that the Indian political culture, you go to people, you ask them for votes, and then people expect you to deliver on all fronts. It's not that
right.
people will want you to build the streets and put on the street lights and send them the tapped water, and they do not want you to be responsible for their security and for their protection and the human rights. They would want you to deliver on all the fronts, the sum
Right.
total of the governance in itself.
Conversely, for the Home Minister, Amit
Yeah.
Shah, it's
Yeah.
somewhat reverse. He has the power to do what should have been done.
Well, this is a very interesting case, a very peculiar case in context of India. It's not just Kashmir; it's anywhere in the country when an incident of terrorism happens. So you have to find accountability somewhere else. You have to find enemies somewhere else. You have to fix accountability somewhere else. So the Home Minister or the Prime Minister does not come directly under the question of accountability. So at least in case of Kashmir, so I haven't seen very many people questioning the government of India. The primarily it has to be questioned that where did the people come from, and obviously all of us have to understand that they have come from Pakistan, and then we have to find out that were there some local people who were providing them some kind of support, some kind of aid, some kind of cover. So that is what terrorists conveniently want. They will come, they will do an action, then they will leave that to us to find out who do we think that who is going to be responsible for this.
Coming to the specific ghastly attack in Pahalgam,
Yeah,
Pahalgam has been part of pretty severe security ring for a very long time, for
that's right.
decades.
That's right.
How is it that two or three gunmen so
Yeah.
cavalierly could do what they did and with such specific targeting?
So this question is very, very genuine, very vital. So everyone is asking. I've been, hearing this question, very innocent question from the members of my family. My daughter has been asking that, how is it possible there were thousands of people at a particular place enjoying their afternoon, their holiday, but then terrorists show up and they kill and they go away, and no one has any idea why the security people were not there. While this has been a part of the public discussion for a while about conflicting number of the security forces available in Kashmir. Some people say there are 300,000, some say there are 700,000, but there is a fairly good number of security forces in Kashmir. So that takes me to one conclusion, that terrorism always happens with an element of surprise. While as you can make tall claims of security everywhere, but then they will find out some or the other way to do something in a very surprising way and go back. And the kind of strategies that have been adopted by separatists over last 4 or 5 years is exactly like that. That they don't stay on in the woods or in any place for a very long time. They do some precise recce, some kind of research, they execute, and they go away. So in most of the incidents this incident has been quite huge. I mean, it's a massacre, it's a carnage, but there have been high profile security related incidents over past 4 or 5 years. When I remember repeatedly past 4 or 5 years, which means that the security environment post 2019, when the constitutional relationship of Kashmir with the rest of India was changed. So there have been some incidents like attack on the security forces, attack on the minorities, particularly in the in Jammu region. But there has not been very great degree of success in hunting down the terrorists or finding out which way they took, how they arrived at a particular place, how they executed, and where did they disappear. So these questions will remain. That thousands of people at a vulnerable place were there, and the security forces, particularly the place where this incident happened, does not have road connectivity. People have to reach there on the horsebacks. So
Right.
which means that an incident of this scale has happened. It takes a while for the security forces to reach there, and it becomes very difficult to evacuate the injured or the dead as well. So if security forces are not reaching there by road, and by that time the forces reach there, the militants have already traveled a few miles away. So it becomes very difficult.
Abdullah said on his X handle, and I'm quoting him
Mhm.
now, needless to say that this attack is much larger than anything we have seen directed at civilians in recent years. In my
That's right.
memory, I
Yeah.
don't think something of this scale in terms of civilian carnage has ever happened since 1989. This is the biggest of its kind in terms of specific targeting and the number of people dying because of that.
So, two incidents come to mind, which have happened over last, say, 30 to 35 years. One is this attack in 2001 that happened on the Legislative Assembly in Kashmir, which left 38 persons killed.
Okay.
Uh, right, okay. And the other was the Chhattisingpura massacre on the occasion of Bill Clinton's presence in New Delhi. So when these terrorists attacked a Sikh village in South Kashmir, and they killed probably more than 30. I'm not remembering the exact figure, but
Right.
probably that was more than 30. So this has been a bigger incident. But in 2019, this Pulwama massacre, in which the security personnel were ambushed and killed, they were in the plus of 40. So this has been, one can say that since you covered Kashmir extensively in 1990s, so this, one can say, that fourth biggest incident in the history of terrorism in Kashmir since 1989.
Is it? I've been reading a bit and watching a few shows. I get the sense that unlike the time frame that we are talking about, for the first time, perhaps there appears to be a shift in the way ordinary Kashmiris are reacting with absolute outrage at what has happened. And this probably represents potentially profound shifts. I saw even some protests by young Kashmiri men saying that we are Indians first and Kashmiris second, and we really disapprove of that. What is your sense of the sense of outrage on the ground?
So you are aware of this geography, demography, and political nuances, cultural nuances of Jammu and Kashmir. So there is Kashmir Valley, and then there is Jammu region, which has diverse population dynamics. Like it's a Hindu majority region, and the 30 to 32% Muslim
Right.
population here. The kind of spontaneous reaction that has happened from all across Jammu and Kashmir since yesterday afternoon, I haven't seen that before. So
Right.
I've seen since yesterday that young children coming out of madrasas with their skull caps and their shalwar suits coming out with candlelight processions and making out very strong statements. I think people of Jammu and Kashmir have completely moved away from any kind of emotional or sentimental thing which could be read in a manner that anyone here who thinks that violence can be any form of support to the political aspirations of the people. So there is one voice, whether that is Hindu, Muslim, irrespective of any political affiliations, any regional community or religious affiliations. So everyone has condemned, and very passionately and in a very strong possible words, everyone has condemned. So I was completely moved by some of the videos that have come up of these people, some of the people who were injured there at Pahalgam incident. They were taken away by some local Kashmiris, and they were looked after at their homes, and they've recorded their videos to send out about the sympathy and the care that the Kashmiri people have extended to them. So this incident also is not. I'm sure that you have seen. Everyone has seen a couple of statements, and particularly one victim woman who has lost her husband. That when a terrorist showed up and he asked that he's a Hindu, so which is why they're talking about they asked religion and then they killed. So there is the Kashmiris feel that this is not just an attack on Hindus. This is not just an attack on the Indian government, Indian state. This is not just an attack on tourists. This is an attack on the Kashmir Valley entirely, because they feel very strongly about this, that this is an attack on all of us.
Do you think that presents both the state government as well as especially the Modi government potential to harvest in a direction which will change the situation on the ground?
So it's very difficult to make an assessment, because as we speak, a cabinet committee and the security meeting is going on in New Delhi, which is being chaired by the Prime Minister. Prime Minister was away to Saudi Arabia. He had to cut his visit short and has come back. The Defense Minister was on a visit to Ladakh. He has also flown back to Delhi to attend this meeting. It's a very crucial, very important meeting. So one does not, understand that what's going on, what decision is going to be taken there. But it's a very, very complex situation. It's a very difficult situation. I'm reminded of the incidents which happened in early 2019, in 2016, when this ghastly terror attack took place on a security formation in Uri, which is in the north of Kashmir Valley, where a number of soldiers were killed. So then India conducted surgical strikes, and that was for first time ever that India crossed the line of control and conducted strikes within the territory of Pakistan. But then there was a certain dynamic that those strikes were in the territory of the Pakistan occupied Kashmir. So there was a message for Pakistan, but then the territory is something that technically, constitutionally belongs to India.
Right.
But in 2019, India crossed over the international, there's a line of control, but went into the Pakistan proper to conduct the surgical strikes there. So that was to exhibit the capabilities that this is what we can do as well. It's not just about fighting on our soil. We can fight you on your soil as well. But things have not changed very significantly since then. So there is an
Right.
improvement in law and order situation on the ground, as far as the local people get involved in, public order and stone pelting, in other kinds of unrest. But as far as terrorism is concerned, I think some kind of, long-term solution will have to be found out.
Right.
So it's very difficult to make an assessment.
Right. The group claiming the responsibility, the so-called the Resistance Front, it's not very well known, but apparently it has the reputation of being ferocious and clear links with the
Yeah.
Pakistani terrorist outfit Lashkar-e-Taiba.
Yes.
What do you know about it? Because I'll come to a particular point, but once you tell
Sure.
me what you know about it, I want to pick your brain on a comment apparently attributed to them that they made.
So, well, this has been a lot mischievous because the groups like these, the Resistant Front, Kashmir Fights, and a number of other organizations. So, there is something, anti-fascist front or something. These are three, four groups. So one does not know that one cannot really find a face for this organization to figure out that who is behind this organization, but they are quick to take responsibilities, and sometimes it just appears that they are a front of the Lashkar-e-Taiba or Jaish-e-Mohammed or something. So there has been a shift over last 4 or 5 years because of some international ramifications, that these groups have not been the well-established groups which have been operating since 1990s. So they have not been taking direct responsibility, the LET, Jaish-e-Mohammed or Hizbul Mujahideen. So these splinter groups, these smaller groups, about whom no one knows. They operate through the Telegram groups. They sent out some statement through the WhatsApp or put out something on the Twitter, and they just completely confuse investigation. They confuse the public perception and narrative. So by the time investigations begin, so this group has claimed responsibility, but one does not really know that whether there was some more organized group, a terrorist organization, or some kind of state involvement or what. So they leave you confused for a while before you arrive at a conclusion
Right.
that who was actually responsible. Yeah.
Right. I suppose that's the strategy, even if there is a suspicion of Pakistani intelligence being involved at some level. But the point
Maybe.
that, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, that could be a possibility because you just keep on figuring out that
Yeah,
who is People's Anti-Fascist Group, who is Resistance Front, and it takes a while to figure out. And by that time, a number of things have
yeah.
disappeared.
See, within that, a particular comment attributed to the so-called group that jumped out at me was the question of demographic shift.
Right.
That some people have talked about since 2019 after the abrogation of 370.
Yeah.
Now, demographic shift, in my judgment, has the potential to have some popular appeal if they keep harping on that, saying that non-Kashmiris are coming and taking over land. Although
Right.
there is no particular evidence on the ground that that has happened in any significant manner.
Right. Right.
Within that context, I was reading about J&K State Assembly being told some time ago that some 83,000 domicile certificates have been issued. How do you look at this whole issue of demographic shift?
So, first of all, that these terrorist groups claiming that because 83,000 people came and settled, and so just we need to attack them to scare them away. So this is not something. This is not a problem of terrorists. If this is a problem at all, this has to be a problem of the people of Jammu and Kashmir to speak out and talk about this, whether they are comfortable with this or not. So then this authority rests with the political parties. This authority rests with the non-governmental organization, political activists, social activists, and other people who are concerned about the demography, about the politics, about the culture, about the economy and resources of Jammu and Kashmir to speak out. So this new domicile law that comes up after the Reorganization Act of 2019, which allows people who have stayed in here in Jammu and Kashmir for more than 15 years to claim their local domiciles. So there is something that has been going on for last 5 years, and there hasn't been any organized protest from any major regional political party, any
Exactly.
major regional organization that we want to resist this, that
Yeah,
we don't want this to happen, that we don't want to people to get the domicile certificates. If this has not been a voice from the people of Jammu and Kashmir, then there cannot be any legitimacy or any kind of connection for the terrorist organization to claim
absolutely.
that they are this is the reason that why they are doing this. So there
Absolutely.
is a constitutional law. Whether you are happy with that or not, there is a constitutional law that sets out a formula, that sets out a pattern, that if you qualify these criteria, So you are able to get a domicile certificate.
Yes.
So there is some number, 83,000. Somebody asked this question in the Legislative Assembly, and the government said 83,000 in last 2 years. But this number could be much higher than the 83,000 because the certificates begin to be given out in 2020. So we have to look at a five-year period. But since we live in the region and we do not see a significant change in the demography, because this bar of 15 years, which means that someone who was already working here, someone who was already mixed up in the local society, he claimed the domicile of Jammu and Kashmir. So there hasn't been any strong local resistance to that extent.
Right. Within that, again, what stands out for me is that forget non-local Kashmiris coming and taking, or even Kashmiri Pandits are not coming back in any significant number yet after
Very,
nearly
very
6 years.
important. This is very important, sir. So there are three categories of people. One is that Kashmiri Pandits, so who left their places in 1989, 90. And because of peculiar circumstances, it's more than 3 decades. It's close to 4 decades.
Right.
It's just that because somebody is distributing domicile certificates, and then you leave your work, everything, whatever you built, out of crisis in last 3 decades or 4 decades, and you rush back to Kashmir because a certain government allegedly wants to change the demography, and you come back and change the demography. So there are some other sets of people like who the citizen residents of subjects of Jammu and Kashmir who got displaced in 1947. Some
Right.
people got displaced in 1965, and then they dispersed to different parts of country. So the circumstances did not allow them to get settled down in Jammu and Kashmir in 1947. So there are a number of people who are in other parts of the country, in Punjab, in Haryana, in Delhi, in Maharashtra, and different places. They have not come back to claim the domicile certificates. So, so yes, there is an issue that is a political issue, but there is no scale or level of resistance that should inspire a terrorist organization to come and scare away people from there.
That's a significant point. That's a significant
Yes.
point.
Yeah.
And finally, Zafar, this is of course speculative. I'm not expecting you to respond in
Yeah.
any substantive manner, but it's again struck me that the extradition of Tahabur Hussain Rana,
Right.
who has been, I mean, because I reported the trial here in Chicago,
Right.
there were clear signs of his Lashkar-e-Taiba link. Now, his extradition and this sudden attack by an organization which may have clear links with LET, it's an interesting development. Speculative, but I find it interesting.
Well, yeah, because we just cannot keep our mind away from some of the developments which have taken place recently. So
Right.
one is this, of course. When an incident of this scale or even of a smaller scale happens, so ordinary people will say that, okay, Pakistan has done this, one terrorist organization or the other has done this. But people in the strategic community, people who have some understanding of the security apparatus and how things move, they will certainly think about, to connect some kind of dots that why did this happen? Why did this happen at a particular place? And why did that happen at a particular time? So Tahabur Rana is one. So I don't have very strong reasons to connect that. But at the same time, I can also not say that there is no connection between this incident and his, extradition to India. The other is that, 4 or 5 days ago, there was a very emotional, very, kind of aggressive kind of speech by the Pakistani army chief, who made 2 points together. One is that, the we Muslims are completely, different from Hindus, and which is why our country was created, which laid the foundation of the two-nation theory. So, and second is that, Kashmir continues to be our jugular vein, and we stand in solidarity with our brethren there. So it's very difficult to disconnect yourself from the elements of both elements of this speech. One is, of course, Kashmir, and then you find something happening in Kashmir. And the second is that we Hindus, Muslims are completely different from the Hindus. And then a terrorist comes and he shoots and he asks that, okay, he's a Hindu, and let's kill him. Let's kill him. So once you have heard this speech, watched this speech, and once you have known about this incident, whether there is a connection or not, but you just, that will keep playing on at the back of your mind, that is there a connection between the two?
Right. Before I let you go, one final thing. In terms of the political dynamic in the aftermath, which we referred to earlier in my first question, the Abdullah federal central government dynamic. What happens now? What exactly does he do? Does he just sit and express contempt, or what are his options?
So, if I had been in place of Omar Abdullah, an elected person running a government for 6 months and no substantial power in my
Right.
hands. So, in backdrop of the incident yesterday, I would tell the Narendra Modi government and Amit Shah that I'm happy with you have left me with. I'll keep on working with the people. Now the security apparatus is with you. You take whatever long time you need to take for 4 years, 5 years, but clear it from terrorism, then hand it over to us.
I see.
So
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. No, that, yeah. Okay. That's fair. Yeah.
Right.
That's fair.
So even if I take over the power at the moment, so just
Yeah.
imagine that had Umar Abdullah been in power around this incident, there would have been a cry across the country for his resignation, and maybe probably he would have been made to resign on this incident. So the
Absolutely.
basic premise, if we go through all the speeches, all the developments in the parliament and outside the parliament, the basic premise for abrogation of Article 370, let's not talk about Article 370. The basic premise for downgrade of the state of Jammu and Kashmir to the Union Territory, and basic premise of holding the powers in your own hands and not sharing authority with the elected government is rests on this, that there are special circumstances, there is terrorism, and there has to be a single authority to deal with these challenges.
Right.
So let these powers remain with the single authority to fight the challenges that we are facing in Kashmir at the moment.
On that note, Zafar, I want to thank you for your time. It's always greatly appreciated.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.